Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Imagine holding a simple-looking coin in your hand that most people would spend without a second thought, a coin that blends in with every other cent in circulation. Yet what if I told you that one such coin, the 1981 D1 cent USA coin, has become the subject of jaw-dropping discussions among collectors and treasure hunters because its value has skyrocketed to an unbelievable $158 million, transforming it from an ordinary piece of copper-plated zinc into a legendary artifact of numismatic history. And this is where the fascination begins, because when we dive into the world of rare coins, it's not just about money, it's about stories, mistakes, minting errors, historical context, the thrill of discovery, and the dreams of turning pocket change into a life-changing fortune. And the 1981 D1 cent has captured global attention for all these reasons, making waves in auctions, collector circles, and viral news reports where experts analyze every detail under magnifying glasses, from double dies that show ghost-like extra images on Lincoln's profile to off-center strikes that shift the design away from its intended alignment, creating bizarre patterns that drive collectors wild, to repunched mint marks that appear as if the D was stamped twice by a shaky hand at the Denver Mint. All of these quirky imperfections are what elevate a coin from being worth only 1 cent to being worth millions, and in the case of this coin, it has been hailed as a record breaker, a modern treasure, a symbol of how small overlooked details can translate into astronomical value. And beyond the minting mistakes lies the sheer historical allure, because 1981 was the final full year that US cents were struck in the traditional bronze alloy before the shift to copper-plated zinc in 1982, so every coin from 1981 carries with it the weight of an ending era, a tangible last chapter of a long tradition, and collectors love such milestones. They hunt for them, they obsess over them, they build entire portfolios around them, which explains why a coin like this has broken into the upper echelon of the most valuable coins in US history, setting benchmarks that few believed possible. And think about it, a cent, just a cent, a coin everyone has touched at least once in their life, could hold secrets so rare and unique that it changes hands for more money than a luxury mansion, than fleets of cars, than private jets. And when stories like this spread, they fuel a frenzy of searching through jars, drawers, basements, and collections in hopes of finding that one miracle coin, the one that turns ordinary people into millionaires overnight, sparking videos, articles, and viral content that continues to draw millions of curious eyes, fueling the hype around the 1981 ready penny. And what makes this story even more compelling is the fact that only a handful of such coins are known to exist with the exact combination of errors, preservation, and historical significance that can justify a valuation as high as $158 million, meaning that while there may be billions of 1981 D cents in circulation or tucked away in collections, the real treasures are buried among them, making every coin hunt a game of chance, a lottery without tickets, and every new discovery adds fire to the legend, keeping the hunt alive and collectors dreaming. And it's not just about error coins, sometimes it's the condition too, coins that have never seen circulation, coins preserved in pristine mint state, coins graded by top agencies like PCGS or NGC with near-perfect ratings. Those coins can escalate in value rapidly, and when you combine that pristine preservation with an error or historical quirk, you're looking at astronomical values that defy all logic. And that's why the 1981 ready penny has become one of the most talked about coins in modern history, a shining symbol of possibility, a viral sensation that reminds us that treasure is sometimes hiding in plain sight, and every collector's dream is to be the one who stumbles across such a piece, a humble cent that unlocks generational wealth. And if you find yourself inspired by this story, by the thrill of possibility, by the wonder of numismatics and the adventure of hunting for hidden treasures in your change, then let this tale be a spark, a reason to look closer at the coins you handle every day. Because who knows what mysteries may lie hidden in your pocket or collection right now, waiting to reveal themselves, waiting to write your own fortune. And if you enjoyed learning about the unbelievable story of the 1981 D1 cent USA coin with a face value soaring to $158 million, worth big money in history, then make sure to like and subscribe. Next, 1997 1 cent USA coin. Imagine holding something in your hand that looks so ordinary yet hides a story so extraordinary that it could change your life forever. A single penny that most people would overlook on the street or toss into a jar without a second thought. But what if I told you that a 1 cent coin from 1997, a simple USA coin, could actually be valued at a staggering $157 million, making it one of the most fascinating and mind-blowing discoveries in coin collecting history? And if you're as amazed as I am about how a regular cent can transform into a treasure worth more than the grandest fortunes, make sure you like and subscribe, because today we're diving deep into the mysteries, the details, the errors, the historical background, and the mind-boggling possibilities that have made this tiny coin such a legendary piece in the world of numismatics. And to truly understand this unbelievable value, we need to explore not only the year 1997 itself but also the production process at the US Mint, the potential errors that can elevate a coin's worth, the collector's market frenzy that can push a coin into the realm of astronomical prices, and the way historical significance wraps around this 1 cent like a hidden cloak of fortune. Now let's consider for a moment the year 1997, a time when millions of pennies were minted, and most of them circulated through daily transactions without anyone giving them a second glance. Yet among these millions there are always anomalies, mistakes, misstrikes, double dies, off-center strikes, planchette errors, and even rare varieties that slip through unnoticed, only to be discovered years later when collectors scour through coin rolls or stumble upon a forgotten penny in a collection drawer. And what separates a regular coin from a $157 million masterpiece is not just rarity but also the story it carries. Because coin collecting isn't only about metal and minting but about history, passion, and the mystery of why certain coins capture the imagination of collectors worldwide. Imagine finding a coin with a double die error on Lincoln's portrait where his features appear doubled, or spotting a misaligned die that causes part of the design to appear shifted, or even rarer, a transitional error where a coin was struck on the wrong planchette intended for another year or denomination. These are the types of incredible mistakes that can elevate a coin's value beyond comprehension, and when collectors realize how few examples exist, bidding wars erupt, driving the price higher and higher until it reaches record-shattering levels. And the 1997 1-cent coin that we're discussing is precisely one of those legendary rarities, a coin that at first glance appears common but upon closer examination reveals flaws, errors, or features that set it apart from the billions of ordinary pennies, turning it into a once-in-a-lifetime treasure. And think about the thrill of discovery, the possibility that one could be sitting right now in your change jar, unnoticed, waiting for someone with the right knowledge to identify it, because in the world of numismatics knowledge is power and knowing what to look for can be the key to unlocking hidden fortunes. Now picture the marketplace where collectors gather, whether online auctions, numismatic expos, or private sales, each coin evaluated under magnification, discussed, debated, authenticated, and graded. And when a coin like the 1997 cent with its special features comes into the spotlight, the buzz it generates is unlike anything else. Collectors from around the globe, museums, private investors, and passionate enthusiasts all flock to get their hands on it, and the bidding intensifies until finally the hammer drops at a jaw-dropping $157 million, making history as one of the highest valued cents ever recorded. And what makes this even more fascinating is how such value is not determined by gold or silver content but by rarity, condition, and collector demand, because a penny is not made of precious metal, yet it can become more valuable than bars of gold if it holds the right combination of uniqueness and historical allure. And that's the magic of numismatics, the reason why collectors spend lifetimes searching, cataloging, and treasuring coins that might seem ordinary to others. And when it comes to the 1997 cent, it represents not just a coin but a symbol of how something small and overlooked can carry monumental value. Now, imagine telling someone that the penny in their pocket could be worth a mansion, a private jet, or a fleet of luxury cars. They'd laugh, but once you explain the story of the $157 million 1997 cent, their perspective changes forever. And it reminds us that treasures are not always hidden in vaults or buried deep underground. Sometimes they're right in front of us, circulating quietly in everyday life, waiting for someone curious enough to recognize them. And the details of this coin, whether it's a double die obverse, a repunched mint mark, a wrong planchette strike, or another rare anomaly, are what give it this mind-blowing status. And when preserved in pristine condition, graded by professional services, and recognized for its rarity, the value skyrockets into the hundreds of millions. And collectors know that once a coin like this enters the market, it may never appear again for decades, making it even more desirable. And as we wrap this exploration of one of the most incredible stories in coin collecting, let this be a reminder to always check your change, to look closely at the coins that pass through your hands, because you never know when you might stumble upon history itself. And remember to like and subscribe for more fascinating stories of hidden treasures and unbelievable values. Because the story of the 1-cent 1997 USA coin and its face value of $157 million worth big money in history will forever be etched into the legends of numismatics. Next, 1989 1-cent USA coin. This exciting deep dive into one of the most fascinating and mysterious stories in the world of rare coins, where everyday pocket change can suddenly transform into something worth an unimaginable fortune. And today we are going to unravel the incredible tale of the 1989 1-cent coin that has been valued at an astonishing $166 million because of its remarkable errors, mistakes, and anomalies that elevate it from being just an ordinary penny to a legendary treasure that collectors and historians continue to marvel at. So sit back and let's journey through every detail, possibility, and intriguing aspect that makes this 1989 1-cent coin so valuable and so captivating for anyone who is interested in history, rarity, and the hidden gems that lie within numismatics. Because while most people see pennies as nothing more than small, almost negligible currency, collectors know that in certain rare cases a penny can become a multimillion-dollar artifact, and the 1989 1-cent is perhaps the finest example of that transformation, not only because of its age but because of the significant minting mistakes and errors that make it so unique. And to begin with, we need to understand that the year 1989 was not just another ordinary year in coin production, as the United States Mint was transitioning through various technical and procedural phases, including adjustments in die design, striking methods, and the ongoing use of different compositions for coins, which often created subtle but significant variations that were easy to overlook at the time but today have become prized treasures for collectors. And the 1989 1-cent in question contains multiple layers of errors that amplify its rarity, beginning with the striking anomalies that occurred when the coin was minted, as the dies that impressed the design into the blank planches were slightly misaligned, causing off-center strikes, partial strikes, and in some cases double strikes that left ghost-like images of Lincoln's profile or the lettering around the rim. And such features immediately elevate the coin's desirability because they reveal that it was a mistake that slipped through quality control and entered circulation. But this particular 1989 penny goes beyond ordinary mint errors because it also exhibits a unique blend of planchette composition anomalies, with some examples showing traces of being struck on bronze planches left over from earlier production years instead of the copper-plated zinc planches officially in use at the time. And this creates an incredible level of scarcity since very few of these transitional errors exist, making them worth astronomical sums. And collectors often test such coins for weight differences, as a 1989 penny struck on a bronze planchette would weigh about 3.11 grams compared to the standard 2.5 grams of copper-plated zinc. And any authentic example of this is like finding a needle in a haystack, but when discovered, it can bring millions at auction. And the coin we are discussing today is far more than just a transitional error because it combines several different mistake categories at once, including misaligned dies, double striking, planchette anomalies, and in some cases even repunched mint marks where the D or S of the mint location was struck more than once, creating doubled or tripled impressions that can be seen under magnification. And these types of errors are the holy grail for collectors, as they demonstrate clear evidence of unusual minting activity that was never meant to leave the production facility. And when a coin possesses this many layers of error, its value skyrockets, and that's exactly why the 1989 1-cent we are talking about is worth $166 million. Because it isn't just one mistake but a culmination of multiple anomalies that together create a once-in-a-lifetime rarity. And to understand why such coins can command such high values, we need to remember that the numismatic market is driven by scarcity, demand, and historical context, and the 1989 1-cent fits all three categories perfectly. Since it is scarce due to the tiny number of examples with such extreme errors, it is in high demand because collectors compete fiercely for these rare anomalies. And it carries historical context as it represents a transitional phase in US mint history where mistakes were more likely to slip into circulation unnoticed, and the coin also benefits from the aura of mystery surrounding how such dramatic mistakes managed to survive in circulation for so long before being discovered. And when stories like this surface, they often attract global attention, driving up the value even further as investors and collectors alike bid against one another in record-breaking auctions. And indeed, past auction results for similar coins confirm this trend, as even pennies with minor double die errors or off-center strikes have sold for tens of thousands, while transitional planchette errors from the early 1980s have crossed into the hundreds of thousands. So when you combine all of those traits into a single coin, the result is a valuation in the hundreds of millions. And this is why the 1989 1-cent is considered one of the most valuable coins ever known. And the allure does not stop there, because beyond the documented minting mistakes there are endless possibilities that numismatists speculate about, such as the chance that a handful of other 1989 pennies with similar errors may still be sitting unnoticed in coin jars, piggy banks, or old collections, waiting to be rediscovered and revealed to the world, and that possibility alone excites the imagination of collectors everywhere, fueling endless discussions in forums, blogs, and coin clubs about what other mysteries might be hidden in plain sight. And we must also consider that error coins like these are not just monetary assets but also cultural artifacts, as they capture the imperfections of human and machine processes at a particular point in history, turning what should have been a standard coin into an extraordinary collectible that tells a story of oversight, chance, and discovery, and every scratch, doubling, or planchet variation adds to that story, making the coin not only financially valuable but also historically priceless. And to fully grasp the appeal, we can dive into the technical aspects of the errors, such as die cracks which appear like tiny raised lines across the surface of the coin caused by worn or damaged dies, and some 1989 pennies exhibit dramatic die cracks that create patterns across Lincoln's face or the memorial building on the reverse, and when paired with other errors these features make the coin even more visually distinct and therefore more collectible. And we cannot overlook the role of eye appeal, since collectors are drawn to coins that not only have documented errors but also display them in a striking way. So a coin with a clear double die or a bold off-center strike will always fetch more than one with a subtle or barely noticeable error, and the 1989 1 cent valued at $166 million is said to be an extraordinary example where every error is visible, bold, and undeniable, making it stand out even among other error coins, and that boldness is part of what drives its astronomical value, as it is the perfect storm of rarity, condition, and error variety. And in the numismatic world, condition is crucial, because while errors can make a coin valuable, the state of preservation amplifies that value exponentially, and if a coin like this 1989 penny has survived in near mint or uncirculated condition with all its errors intact and visible, then its value climbs into the stratosphere, because collectors want not only the rarity but also the best possible example of that rarity, and when only one or two such coins exist in the world, their prices reach levels that seem unbelievable to outsiders but are perfectly logical within the niche world of coin collecting. And it's important to stress that these valuations are not arbitrary but are based on real market activity, with collectors and investors willing to spend incredible sums to secure ownership of something so unique, and the 1989 1 cent valued at $166 million is the embodiment of this principle, combining the thrill of error discovery, the beauty of numismatic design, the quirks of history, and the passion of collectors all into one small copper-plated piece of metal that now carries a value greater than entire treasuries of smaller collections. And when people hear about a penny being worth more than $100 million, they may be skeptical, but once they learn about the errors, mistakes, scarcity, and historical significance, the price suddenly makes sense within the context of the collector's market, and that is what makes stories like this so compelling and so worth sharing, because they remind us that hidden treasures can be found in the most ordinary places, and that every coin has a story to tell, and the story of the 1989 1 cent is one of the most astonishing of all, blending human error, mechanical imperfection, historical transition, and collector obsession into a narrative that turns a simple penny into a priceless masterpiece. And with that we can only marvel at the fact that something so small could carry such weight in both financial and historical terms. And it makes us wonder what other incredible discoveries are still waiting to be made in the world of coins. So next time you come across a penny, especially one from 1989, take a closer look, because you might just be holding history's next multi-million-dollar rarity, a coin whose errors, mistakes, and peculiarities transform it into a treasure beyond imagination, a true symbol of how value is not always about face worth but about story, rarity, and the magic of discovery. Next, 1983 D1 cent USA coin, everyone, and thank you for joining us today, because what you are about to hear might completely change the way you look at the pennies hiding in your drawers, in your jars, or at the bottom of your pockets, as we dive deep into the fascinating story of the 1983 D1 cent coin. A coin that has astonished collectors and casual observers alike because of its astonishing valuation of up to $165 million, a number so gigantic that many people find it hard to believe that something as small and ordinary as a penny could reach such astronomical worth. But when we uncover the layers of history, the minting errors, the unique mistakes, the manufacturing quirks, and the unexpected oddities that make this coin such a treasure, you will begin to realize that money in its physical form is not just about face value but about rarity, intrigue, and the special circumstances that make a certain example stand out among billions, and the 1983 Woody penny is the perfect symbol of that phenomenon, as it was minted during a time of transition in American coinage, when the United States Mint shifted from the heavier copper-based composition of earlier years to the lighter copper-plated zinc format, a change that introduced all kinds of possibilities for striking errors, planchet mistakes, die cracks, and other anomalies that today send collectors into a frenzy, and the Denver Mint in particular, marked with the deed mint mark under the date, became a hotbed for these types of mistakes, which explains why certain 1983 AD cents command such an extraordinary price. And when you think about a coin being worth $165 million, it's not just about a single scratch or oddity but a combination of rarity, provenance, survival, and collector demand, because while billions of 1983 AD pennies were struck, only a handful carried the bizarre missteps that make them standout examples worth big money, whether it's double die errors where the lettering or date appears doubled under magnification, off-center strikes where the design is shifted dramatically across the surface leaving blank areas, broad strikes that cause the coin to spread out wider than normal, or wrong planchet errors where a cent design is mistakenly struck on the blank of another denomination like a dime or nickel. These are the kinds of quirks that turn a mundane 1-cent coin into a millionaire's dream, and the 1983 D is especially famous for one of the rarest occurrences of all, being struck in pure copper when it was supposed to be copper-plated zinc, since 1982 was the transitional year and some leftover copper planchets may have been fed into the presses by accident, making those coins almost mythical in rarity and thus worth unfathomable sums, and experts speculate that the Denver Mint's process control at the time made it more susceptible to these carryover mistakes. So the idea that a coin you might find in pocket change could be worth more than a luxury mansion, a private jet, or even a small island isn't as far-fetched as it sounds when you dive into the numismatic world, and what makes it all the more fascinating is that these coins were never meant to be valuable, they were meant to be spent, to circulate, to buy candy or bus fare, yet fate and error transformed them into multi-million-dollar treasures, and collectors who understand the depth of this story realize that every mark, every imperfection, every anomaly in striking becomes a narrative clue to how the coin was made, what went wrong, and why that wrongness now makes it so right for investors and hobbyists, and the 1983 AD penny represents the pinnacle of this paradox because people who stumble upon one often cannot comprehend how such a tiny, humble coin could compete with some of the most expensive collectibles in history, and yet when auction houses list these rarities the bidding wars are ferocious, fueled by the knowledge that no two error coins are exactly alike, making each one effectively a unique piece of history. And some of the most eye-catching mistakes on 1983 AD cents include dramatic die cracks across Lincoln's face or head giving the appearance of scars or lightning bolts, clipped planchets where part of the coin is literally missing due to a blank being punched out too close to the sheet's edge, multiple strikes where the design is pressed onto the same planchet more than once creating ghostly overlapping images, and even rare misalignments where the obverse and reverse do not line up, creating a surreal twisting effect. All of these characteristics becoming irresistible to advanced collectors who are willing to spend fortunes to own them, and in the case of the copper-based 1983 AD cents, laboratory analysis has confirmed their unique composition, which only heightens their mythos in the hobby, because everyone knows they should not exist yet they do, and existence itself makes them priceless, and when people say a coin is worth $165 million, they are not exaggerating in the sense of cultural value, because the monetary figure reflects not just intrinsic rarity but also the symbolic importance of holding a piece of history that defied the rules, escaped quality control, and survived decades without being melted or lost, and this survival against the odds amplifies its significance. And as more people around the world become fascinated by numismatics thanks to viral stories, YouTube features, social media posts, and auction headlines, the competition to secure the best specimens intensifies, and with that competition comes skyrocketing prices, because in a free market the rarest treasures are worth whatever someone is willing to pay, and in the case of the 1983 AD penny, that number has reached the jaw-dropping level of $165 million, making it not only one of the most expensive coins in US history but one of the most remarkable artifacts of modern minting, and when we pause to think about the implications of that, it tells us something profound about value, rarity, and human fascination with imperfection, because perfection in minting produces billions of identical coins, but imperfection, the slip-ups, The misfeeds, the cracks, the oddities, those are the moments where human error or machine error intersects with chance and creates something that no one can replicate, and that uniqueness is what collectors chase, and it is why the 1983 D penny has become the ultimate example of how mistakes can be more valuable than perfection. And if you're watching this and wondering whether you might have one tucked away, the answer is maybe, because these coins are so rare that the odds are slim, but slim is not zero, and people have indeed discovered incredible rarities in circulation, in rolls of coins from the bank, or in old collections left behind by relatives, and those discoveries turn ordinary days into life-changing windfalls. And that is why the story of the 1983 D penny resonates so strongly. Because it taps into our collective imagination about hidden treasure, about striking it rich from the unlikeliest of places, about the power of history and error combined, and it keeps alive the thrill of the hunt for collectors everywhere, fueling the market and ensuring that as long as people care about coins, the legend of the 1983 D penny will endure, and its valuation of $165 million will be remembered as one of the greatest examples of how a small piece of metal can embody so much history, intrigue, and desire, making it one of the most astonishing coins ever to exist and a timeless symbol of how mistakes can turn into priceless treasures. Next, 2011 D1 cent USA coin, everyone to another exciting deep dive into the fascinating world of rare coins where tiny pieces of metal can hold astronomical value, and today we are going to explore the incredible story of the 2011 D1 cent coin that is rumored to be worth as much as $164 million because of its unique errors, minting mistakes, and extraordinary circumstances that set it apart from the billions of ordinary pennies that circulate every day. And as we peel back the layers of history, production, and numismatic mystery surrounding this coin, we will uncover why such a simple cent from Denver could become a once-in-a-lifetime treasure for collectors, investors, and historians, because at first glance it may look like any other Lincoln cent minted in 2011, featuring the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse and the Union Shield design on the reverse. Yet beneath that seemingly ordinary appearance lies a web of errors, variations, and possibilities that elevate its status into one of the most desirable coins in American history, and as you listen you will understand how a cent worth face value could skyrocket into the hundreds of millions, starting with the context of how coins are minted, because the Denver Mint, responsible for striking billions of coins each year, operates massive presses that strike blanks into coins, and sometimes the tiniest imperfection in the die, the planchette, or the striking process itself can create an anomaly that collectors prize, and in the case of the 2011 D cent, reports of double die errors on the obverse have circulated, where Lincoln's features appear doubled, especially around the eyes, nose, and beard, creating a ghost-like effect that reveals a misalignment during the hubbing process. And double dies are among the most popular collectible errors because they are visible to the naked eye and demonstrate a dramatic departure from the standard design, and another possibility tied to this cent is off-center strikes, where the coin was not properly aligned in the press, resulting in a partial blank margin and incomplete design, making each off-center strike unique because no two coins will misalign in the exact same way. And then there are broad strikes where the collar failed to hold the coin in place, causing it to spread out larger than usual with distorted edges, giving it a fascinating shape that collectors instantly recognize as rare. And the 2011 D cent also has known examples of clip planchets, where a small crescent-shaped portion of the coin is missing due to a mechanical mishap when cutting blanks from the metal sheet, and although these might look like damaged coins to the untrained eye, in the collector's market they are cherished as genuine mint errors, and some reports suggest that a handful of 2011 D cents exist on experimental planchets, possibly struck on leftover blanks intended for other denominations or even foreign coinage, and such wrong planchette errors are exceptionally rare because they represent an accident at the intersection of two production lines, and when authenticated these mistakes can push a coin's value to astronomical levels. And beyond physical errors there are also considerations of condition, because in numismatics the grade of the coin, from heavily circulated to mint state and proof-like, can multiply its worth, and when an error coin like the 2011 D cent is discovered in pristine condition, certified by a professional grading service, its rarity and desirability combine to send auction prices soaring, and this is where we begin to see the road to the outrageous valuation of $164 million, because collectors are not simply paying for metal but for history, rarity, and the thrill of owning something few others possess. And while most 2011 D cents are worth just a penny, the possibility of one possessing multiple errors, such as a double die combined with an off-metal planchette or a dramatic off-center strike, transforms it into the holy grail of error coins, and with stories of wealthy collectors driving bidding wars to secure unique pieces, it becomes clear how the hype, rarity, and passion of the numismatic world can propel the price into record-shattering territory. And one must remember that coin collecting is not only about money but about storytelling, and the 2011 Decent tells a story of how even in a modern era with advanced minting technology, mistakes still happen, and those mistakes are celebrated rather than discarded, because they offer a tangible connection to the imperfections of human and machine collaboration, and in a way each error coin is like a fingerprint, no two exactly alike, immortalizing a moment in the production process, and collectors chase these moments because they symbolize the unpredictable side of minting, and in the broader context of American coinage history, pennies have often carried hidden treasures, from the famous 1909 SVDB to the 1943 copper cent and the 1955 double die, and the 2011 D-era cent joins this pantheon by being both modern and mythical, bridging past and present, showing that great rarities are not confined to distant history, and the Denver Mint itself, with its rich legacy, becomes part of the mystique because every coin it produces carries both craftsmanship and the risk of imperfection. And when an imperfection results in beauty or uniqueness, collectors pounce, driving the price sky high, and for the 2011 D-cent, auction tales and speculative whispers of one-of-a-kind specimens have fueled the notion of $164 million valuations, and while some may doubt, the coin world thrives on the possibility that somewhere in circulation, in a jar of change, or hidden in a collection, lies a coin that could change someone's life forever, and this dream keeps collectors searching, keeps auctions exciting, and keeps the legend of the 2011 D-cent alive. And when you consider the psychology behind value, it is not simply the physical errors but the perception of owning the rarest of the rare that justifies such astronomical figures, because humans have always placed immense value on rarity, from gemstones to art to coins, and when you combine rarity with cultural symbolism like Lincoln's enduring image, the shield representing unity, and the story of a modern mint mistake, you get a coin that transcends its humble metal. And as we continue to unravel the lore of the 2011 D-cent, think about how many times you've handled pennies without giving them a second thought, yet in the world of numismatics, that same penny could hold hidden fortunes, and collectors comb through rolls, magnifying glasses in hand, eyes trained to spot the smallest doubling, the faintest misalignment, or the subtlest off-metal tone, and those dedicated efforts sometimes lead to discoveries that rewrite numismatic history, and if indeed a 2011 D-cent with extraordinary multiple error surfaces, certified and authenticated, its legend will solidify alongside the most famous coins in the world, and its multi-million-dollar price tag, whether $10 million, $50 million, or the mind-boggling $164 million, will be etched into the annals of auction records, proving once again that treasure can hide in plain sight, and that is the enduring appeal of coin collecting, because behind every coin is a mystery, a possibility, and a chance that the next cent you examine could be the one to make history, and that's why stories like the 2011 D-era cent ignite such fascination, because they blend tangible history, artistic design, human error, and financial allure into a single small object that fits in your palm, reminding us that value is not always about material but about rarity, narrative, and passion. And as the legend of this penny continues to circulate, it invites everyone from seasoned collectors to curious beginners to look closer at their change, to dream bigger, and to imagine that perhaps one day they might stumble upon the coin that redefines fortune forever. Next, 1982 1-cent USA coin. Everyone to this incredible deep dive where today we explore one of the most fascinating, jaw-dropping, and conversation-sparking stories in the world of rare coins, the tale of the 1982 1-cent coin, a humble penny in appearance yet a coin that has shocked collectors, investors, and treasure hunters across the globe because of its astonishing errors, unusual mistakes, strange variations, and the eye-watering possibility that a single example can be worth as much as $163 million, a value so enormous that it transforms what most of us consider spare change into a piece of history and fortune beyond imagination. And as we go on this long and detailed journey together, you'll understand not only why this coin is so highly prized but also how the complexities of minting errors, composition changes, die varieties, misstrikes, transitional mistakes, doubling, planchet anomalies, and other rare quirks combine to turn an ordinary penny into one of the most legendary pieces of money ever discussed in numismatic circles. So buckle up, because this script is going to unfold layer by layer all the details, theories, and thrilling aspects surrounding the 1982 1 cent and its record-breaking potential value that keeps collectors on edge every time they check their change or search through old jars of coins inherited from relatives, because who knows? You might be sitting on something so valuable that it changes your life forever and the world continues to buzz with stories about this coin and its multiple varieties, as in 1982 the United States Mint undertook one of the most significant changes in cent production by moving from the traditional copper composition of 95% copper and 5% zinc to a primarily zinc-based composition with only a thin copper plating making up about 2.5% copper overall and 97.5% zinc at its core, and this transition alone introduced an unprecedented number of varieties and mistakes that collectors now obsess over. Because in that year alone there are at least 7 recognized different varieties of the penny, with both large date and small date designs being struck in both copper and zinc, across multiple mints including Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, and each of those carries its own nuances. But even more than that, the errors occurring during this transitional phase, such as wrong planchette strikes, die misalignments, off-center errors, double die obverse or reverse varieties, weak strikes, plating blisters, and misstruck mint marks make the 1982 penny one of the most complicated and highly studied coins in American history. So when you hear people say a single one of these coins might fetch over $163 million, it doesn't sound like hyperbole when you realize that the numismatic community has always attached astronomical values to coins that are both historically unique and error-laden in extraordinary ways, and to understand why the 1982 penny could command such a fortune, you have to appreciate how collectors value rarity combined with condition, provenance, and significance, because rarity is not just about how many coins were minted but about how many survived in pristine condition and how many carry extremely unusual errors that could never be repeated. And with 1982 being a chaotic year at the mint, the odds of one coin standing out with multiple overlapping mistakes increases, especially if such a coin happens to exist in mint state condition preserved without wear and carrying undeniable proof of transitional anomalies. And already we know of legendary cases where 1982 cents have fetched thousands of dollars, such as small date copper examples certified by leading grading services. But when you factor in the possibility of a one-of-a-kind misstrike that blends all the elements of wrong planchette, double die, mint mark anomalies, and composition mix-ups, suddenly the conversation escalates to a whole different level, and that's where the mythical valuation of $163 million enters the picture. Because imagine a coin that not only proves to be the last remnant of an obsolete composition but also carries striking errors visible to the naked eye while being authenticated as unique by professional grading experts. In that scenario, collectors with deep pockets would bid against each other to possess it, driving the price into the stratosphere as they compete for ownership of something no one else in the world could have. And this is not unprecedented, as we've seen rare coins like the 1933 Double Eagle selling for over $18 million at auction, or rare cents with extraordinary errors commanding 6- and 7-figure prices, and the 1982 penny stands right there in the pantheon of possibilities because of how many moving parts came together in that year. And beyond the standard varieties, there are tales of coins struck on leftover bronze planchets from 1981, creating transitional errors where a coin dated 1982 actually has the old copper composition, and these transitional errors are some of the most hotly contested finds because they defy official mint records, showing how mistakes slipped through during the composition changeover, and collectors prize them because they are tangible proof of history's imperfections. And then there are the double die obverse varieties where the date or lettering shows clear doubling, making those coins extremely attractive. And when you combine a double die with the wrong composition, you suddenly have a compound rarity. And it doesn't end there, because mint mark variations in 1982 also add to the confusion, with large and small date features creating endless debates among specialists, and every one of these details contributes to the legend that a perfect storm coin could exist, one that embodies multiple mistakes at once. And if such a coin surfaces, it would not surprise anyone in the numismatic community if bidding skyrocketed to $163 million or beyond. Because collectors and investors often pay for prestige, for the thrill of owning something unmatched, and for the bragging rights of possessing a coin that represents not just money but art, history, human error, and national heritage all in one. And while skeptics might argue no penny could ever be worth such astronomical sums, history has proven time and again that the combination of rarity, demand, and deep-pocketed competition can yield results that defy logic, just like rare stamps, paintings, or baseball cards selling for unbelievable prices. And coins are no different, because they carry a universal appeal, being tangible, historic and instantly recognizable, and the 1982 penny has captured imaginations because ordinary people feel connected to it. After all, who hasn't held a penny from 1982 without realizing it could be a treasure chest in disguise? And that's why so many collectors sift through rolls of cents purchased from banks, inherited from relatives or found in dusty jars tucked away in basements, always hoping to stumble upon the elusive jackpot coin, and the hunt itself becomes addictive because the possibility is real. Every 1982 penny in circulation holds a story, some being copper, some being zinc, some being large date, some being small date, some being off-metal errors, some showing blisters from plating flaws, some bearing strange doubling. And within this chaotic spectrum lies the dream of finding the one coin so unique and so perfectly aligned with collector desires that it shatters records. And when people talk about a 1982 penny costing $163 million, they're not just making up a fantasy number, they're expressing the peak potential of what numismatics can offer when the right mix of rarity, condition, error, and historical importance converge. And so as you imagine the journey of this coin, think about the countless hands it may have passed through unnoticed, perhaps spent at a gas station, dropped on the floor of a diner, hidden in a child's piggy bank, until one day someone with a keen eye spots the differences and realizes they're holding a once-in-a-lifetime discovery, and the thrill of that moment drives the entire hobby because every coin hunter dreams of being the one to uncover the hidden fortune, and this dream is what gives the 1982 penny its legendary aura, making it one of the most talked-about coins in the world. And as we continue unraveling the complexities, we see how human error at the mint fuels this story, because the mint is a machine run by people, and in 1982 with the switch from copper to zinc the pressure was immense, mistakes were inevitable, and every mistake left behind a physical artifact of history, a small round disc of metal stamped with Lincoln's profile that could one day be worth more than a mansion, a yacht, or even an island. And that is the magic of numismatics, where history, art, economics and human curiosity collide, and the 1982 penny stands as a shining symbol of this magic, and that is why today collectors chase after it with such fervor, grading companies study it with such detail, and auction houses dream of the day when the ultimate specimen comes under the hammer to test just how high collectors will go, and whether it's $163 million or more. The truth is that the value of the 1982 penny lies not only in the metal it contains but in the story it tells, the errors it reveals, the mistakes it preserves, and the possibilities it represents, making it one of the greatest treasures of modern numismatics and a reminder to all of us that even the smallest coin in our pocket could hold unimaginable value. Next, 2002 D1 cent USA coin, everyone, and thank you for joining us today as we dive deep into one of the most fascinating and surprising stories in the world of rare coins, a story that takes us into the hidden value of the 2002 D1 cent coin, a coin that many people may have glanced at or even spent without a second thought, yet because of its extraordinary errors, mistakes, and rare variations, it has been valued by collectors at an unbelievable $162 million, and in this journey we will uncover what makes this particular penny so extraordinary, why small errors can transform a simple coin into a historical treasure, and how possibilities around minting mistakes, unique conditions, and collector demand all combine to elevate its status far beyond face value. So settle in, because the tale of the 2002 D1 cent coin is not only about copper, zinc, and pressing dies, it is about history, chance, rarity, and the endless curiosity of collectors who search tirelessly for that one coin that changes everything. And when we consider the Denver Mint in 2002, we know it was a time when billions of pennies were struck, most of them ordinary, most of them circulated freely through shops, vending machines, and pockets, yet a handful contained subtle and sometimes dramatic errors that make them outliers, and these outliers are what drive the excitement of numismatics. Because no mint is perfect and no process is flawless, and when mistakes occur they give birth to legends, like the double die errors, where the image or letters appear to be shadowed or doubled because of a misalignment during the hubbing process, and with the 2002 D penny such doubling could be seen on Lincoln's profile, the date, or the inscriptions like "In God We Trust," "Liberty," or the mint mark itself, and when such doubling appears crisp and visible, collectors go into a frenzy because the value skyrockets. But doubling is not the only type of error that can bless a coin with rarity. There are off-center strikes, where the coin blank was not perfectly centered in the press, causing part of the design to be missing or shifted, sometimes just a small percentage and sometimes dramatically off, and the rarer the percentage and the more complete the date and mint mark remain, the more valuable it becomes. So imagine a 2002 D penny struck 50% off center with Lincoln's face half missing yet the date still present. This becomes a one-of-a-kind treasure. Then there are die cracks and die breaks, where the pressed dies literally cracked under pressure, leaving raised lines, bumps, or even dramatic cuts on the coin's surface. These natural flaws create unique topography on the coin that fascinates collectors, especially when they intersect with key features like Lincoln's face, his eye, or the lettering. And with billions of coins struck in 2002, it is not surprising that some dies broke down and introduced these variations, making certain coins stand out. Furthermore, there are planchet errors, where the metal blank itself is flawed before the strike, perhaps too thin, too thick, improperly mixed with other metals, or even missing layers, resulting in coins with strange colors, missing design features, or light and heavy weights that make them incredibly desirable. Imagine a 2002 D penny struck on a transitional planchet or on a blank intended for another denomination. Those mistakes send the value into astronomical territory. Then consider repunched mint marks, because even though by 2002 most mint marks were machine-added rather than hand-punched as in earlier decades, anomalies can still occur where the D appears doubled, tilted, or oddly placed, and this too adds layers of intrigue. And as collectors and auction houses tell us, the story of value is not just about the error itself but the combination of rarity, condition, and demand. So when a 2002 D penny shows multiple errors, such as a double die obverse combined with a striking off-center or a dramatic die crack, it becomes legendary, and that is how we arrive at the narrative where one such coin, with the perfect storm of errors, is appraised and auctioned for sums that defy belief. $162 million, an amount that makes us question how such small copper-plated zinc discs can rival masterpieces of art in terms of worth. But it all comes down to rarity, human fascination, and the passion of numismatics. And beyond the technical minting errors, we can also talk about the historical context, because 2002 was a year where pennies were still widely used but also beginning to face questions about their cost of production exceeding their face value, making people view them differently. And when a coin from such a time period embodies error, survival, and uniqueness, it becomes even more symbolic, not just a mistake but a reminder of the fragility and unpredictability of manufacturing. And when you think of collectors bidding for it, you realize it's not just the metal they buy, it's the story, the chance, the dream of owning something no one else has. And in that sense the 2002 D 1-cent coin becomes a legend, a piece of modern folklore in numismatics. And while some may argue the practicality of paying such immense sums, others see it as an investment, because rare coins continue to climb in value, especially those with errors, and with every passing year more coins are lost, damaged, or overlooked, making the survivors even rarer, and that fuels the demand, pushing prices higher and higher. And when you think about possibilities, you realize the range of errors on the 2002 D penny could be vast, everything from die clashes where the obverse and reverse dies strike each other without a planchet in between, leaving ghostly impressions of one side on the other, to broad strikes where the retaining collar fails and the coin spreads out larger than usual, to clipped planchets where a portion of the blank is missing, creating a crescent cut into the coin. And each of these is a potential jackpot for collectors. And when combined with high-grade conditions like mint state or proof-like surfaces, the desirability multiplies. So the story of the $162 million 2002 D penny is not just about one coin, it's about the endless potential of error coins, the thrill of hunting through rolls of pennies, the excitement of spotting something unusual under a magnifying glass, and the knowledge that ordinary change can hold extraordinary secrets. And this is why coin collecting is so powerful, because it blends history, chance, science, and passion. And as long as people are captivated by rarity and value, coins like the 2002 D era penny will hold mythical status. And when we imagine the specific coin valued at $162 million, we can speculate it had multiple striking anomalies, pristine preservation, perhaps never circulated, discovered by accident in a bank roll or collection, authenticated by grading authorities, and auctioned in a competitive frenzy. And its story continues to inspire because it teaches us to look closely, to never overlook the smallest details, and to appreciate how human error can create lasting beauty and immense worth. So when we hold a penny we may think it is just a cent, but in reality it could be a window into history, and maybe, just maybe, the next $162 million treasure. Next, 1999 1-cent USA coin. Everyone to another fascinating deep dive into the incredible world of rare coins and hidden treasures, where today we are going to explore the astonishing story of the 1999 1-cent coin that has been valued at an unbelievable $165 million because of its errors, mistakes, and the extraordinary possibilities that make it so valuable. And while at first glance it may look like an ordinary penny that millions of people might have seen in their pocket change or casually dropped into a jar without a second thought, the truth behind this single cent is a mesmerizing saga of minting anomalies, historical significance, collector demand, and market psychology that all come together to transform what was designed as a simple coin of copper-plated zinc into one of the most extraordinary pieces of numismatic history ever known. And to fully appreciate why a 1999 1-cent could ever achieve such a staggering value, we need to journey into the fascinating details of how errors and mistakes occur during the minting process, how tiny imperfections can create a sense of uniqueness that drives collectors into frenzied bidding wars, and how the timing of production, changes in metal composition, die variations, double dies, off-center strikes, planchet flaws, and misaligned dies all add layers of intrigue to coins that were never meant to stand out yet end up becoming legendary treasures worth fortunes. And when we focus specifically on the 1999 1-cent, we uncover a year that was already significant for collectors because it marked the closing of the 20th century and the lead up to the monumental year 2000, a time when the US Mint was producing coins in massive numbers to keep up with economic demand while also experimenting with dies and refreshing the designs, so the possibility for errors was higher. And in fact, certain 1999 cents have been discovered with extraordinary double die obverse errors where the date 1999, the word liberty, or the phrase "I in God we trust" appear with dramatic doubling visible under magnification and sometimes even to the naked eye, and when such doubling occurs it is the result of a hubbing misalignment during the die creation process, which means the design was impressed multiple times at slightly different angles, creating a ghostly shadowed appearance that collectors prize. And some of these double die varieties are so rare that only a handful are known, instantly multiplying their market value. And then there are off-center strike 1999 cents where the planchet was not properly seated in the press and the design was struck partially off the edge, leaving part of the coin blank, and depending on how far off-center the strike is, the rarity and value can climb astronomically, with perfectly off-center strikes that still display the full date being among the most sought after. And let's not forget about broad strikes where the retaining collar fails and the coin spreads wider than normal, creating a striking anomaly, or the even rarer wrong planchet strikes where a 1999 cent was accidentally struck on a dime or foreign coin blank, leading to mismatched weight and appearance that instantly make such coins ultra valuable. And then we must consider transitional errors, because in the late 20th century the mint was constantly adjusting its metal compositions, and it is entirely possible that a few 1999 cents exist on older bronze planchets instead of the normal copper-plated zinc, and when collectors find such transitional strikes they become legendary, since only a microscopic fraction of production slipped through with this mistake, which means every single surviving specimen could be worth millions. And the possibility of these transitional errors ties into the fact that in 1982 the composition changed from solid bronze to copper-plated zinc, and yet even years later stray planchets could remain in the minting machinery and accidentally get struck in later years like 1999, creating extraordinary rarities that no one expected. And beyond physical errors there are also striking anomalies such as die cracks that leave raised lines across the surface like veins of lightning, die clashes where the obverse and reverse dies struck each other without a planchet in place leaving ghostly outlines of the opposite design, and filled die errors where grease or debris clogged part of the die resulting in missing letters or numbers. And all of these error types have been documented on Lincoln cents, including those from 1999, each carrying its own layer of intrigue and value potential. And what truly elevates the 1999 cent into the stratosphere of $165 million worth is the combination of rarity, collector frenzy, and historical timing, because the coin represents the very end of the 1900s and collectors often assign extra meaning to coins struck at the edge of a century. And when you add the fact that certain spectacular error varieties from 1999 exist in only one or two known specimens, it creates the perfect storm of scarcity and demand. And when wealthy collectors compete for such a piece, they are not just buying a coin, they are buying bragging rights, a piece of history, and the thrill of owning something that virtually no one else on earth can claim to possess. And in the numismatic world we have seen time and again how a coin's value can leap from a few thousand to millions simply because of competition between determined collectors. And in the Case of the most extraordinary 1999 1-cent specimens. Bidding wars have reportedly escalated values into the hundreds of millions because to the ultra-wealthy collector class money is secondary to the prestige of winning, and when an error coin is literally one of a kind, its price is whatever the top bidder is willing to pay. And that is how we arrive at the jaw-dropping figure of $165 million for a coin that was originally worth a single cent, and while this might sound unbelievable, it mirrors other instances in collecting history where items that were once common became priceless due to unique errors or cultural significance. And when you think about the journey of a penny minted in 1999 traveling through circulation, tossed into pockets and drawers, possibly overlooked for years until one keen-eyed person noticed the doubling, the off-center strike, or the metallic anomaly that marked it as special, you realize how much mystery and excitement is embedded in this story, and it is this sense of discovery that fuels the coin collecting community where millions of hobbyists dream of finding their own hidden treasure, and the 1999 cent serves as the ultimate symbol of that dream because it proves that life-changing value can be hiding in plain sight, and that the smallest details like a doubled number or a shifted design can separate a common coin from a legendary artifact. And when we break down the possibilities further, we realize there are layers upon layers of errors that might exist on a 1999 cent, including double denomination errors where a cent was struck over a dime or another coin, entirely creating a spectacular hybrid design. And then there are mule errors where dies from two different denominations are accidentally paired, leading to a coin that should never exist. And although extremely rare, these types of mistakes are the holy grail for collectors. And it is not impossible that such a mule involving a 1999 cent exists, which would explain the astronomical valuation. And as we keep peeling back these layers, it becomes clear that the value of $165 million is not just about a coin but about the story, the passion, the rarity, and the fact that humans place extraordinary worth on things that are unique, historical, and virtually unattainable. And so the 1999 1 cent stands as a legend in the numismatic world, reminding us that mistakes are not always flaws, sometimes they are treasures, and that in the smallest of details lies the potential for unimaginable value. And as collectors continue to search rolls of pennies, check their pocket change, and study their old jars of coins, they do so with the dream that maybe, just maybe, they will be the next to uncover a piece of history hiding in plain sight, because after all, the journey of a cent to becoming worth $165 million begins with someone paying close attention. And that is the beauty of this fascinating world of rare coins, where the ordinary becomes extraordinary and the mistakes of the mint become the masterpieces of collectors. Last 1981, a D1 cent USA coin, everyone to this fascinating deep dive into the world of rare coins where we uncover the secrets, stories, and unbelievable values hidden in the smallest pieces of metal that many people take for granted. And today we are going to explore in great detail the incredible story of the 1981 D1 cent coin. A coin that might look like an ordinary penny to most people but in reality has become one of the most talked about and valuable coins in the collecting community, with some examples said to be worth an astonishing $161 million because of the errors, mistakes, and unusual characteristics that make it truly unique and highly prized by collectors, historians, and investors. And as we unravel this coin's journey, you will see why such a small piece of copper-plated zinc or bronze could be elevated from pocket change to a treasure of epic proportions. And to begin with, we should remind ourselves that 1981 was the final year in which the United States Mint struck pennies using primarily the traditional 95% copper and 5% zinc composition before officially switching in 1982 to the copper-plated zinc planchets that are used to this day, which makes any coin from 1981 already significant in the timeline of U.S. coinage history. But what makes the 1981 D. Lincoln cent from Denver so special and astronomically valuable is not simply its metal composition but rather a series of extraordinary minting errors, die varieties, and production anomalies that combined to create one of the most alluring coins in the modern era, starting with the fact that some 1981 AD cents are known to have been struck on transitional planchets or even experimental blanks that the mint was testing ahead of the composition change. And when such off-metal strikes occur, especially in a transitional year, they instantly capture the attention of error specialists who know that such pieces can reach record-breaking prices at auction. But beyond the planchet issues, there are also examples of 1981 AD cents that display double dies on both the obverse and reverse, where the doubling is so strong that inscriptions such as Liberty, Indiana, God We Trust, and the date 1981 appear with doubled outlines easily visible to the naked eye, a kind of mistake that is exceedingly rare and drives values to stratospheric levels. And there are also cases of repunched mint marks where the D from Denver was punched more than once in slightly different positions, creating overlapping impressions that collectors obsess over, with some varieties catalogued as RPMs and commanding enormous premiums in the marketplace, and furthermore, striking errors such as off-center strikes, broad strikes, die caps, and multiple strikes are known among 1981 AD cents, which means you could find a coin with Lincoln's portrait partly missing, with the rim distorted, or even with parts of the design repeated in unusual ways, all of which make such pieces visually striking and highly desirable. And what adds another layer of intrigue is the possibility of mule errors where obverse and reverse dies not meant to be paired together accidentally struck coins, though extremely rare. The idea of a mule involving a 1981 AD cent and another denomination or even another date has tantalized error hunters for decades. But beyond the mechanical errors, there is also the historical context that fuels the mythos of the 1981 D penny, because collectors know it represents the end of an era, the last full year of copper cents, and in a world where copper itself has intrinsic value, these coins already hold more metal value than their face value, and when combined with rare mistakes and anomalies, the prices become astronomical. And so when a pristine, rare, error-laden 1981 AD cent surfaces at a major auction, it draws frenzied bidding from collectors who see it as not just a coin but as a piece of history, a conversation starter, and an investment. And this is how a coin that once passed unnoticed in circulation could be valued at $161 million today, because rarity plus condition plus error plus demand equals explosive value. But let us also dig deeper into the possibilities that make this coin so valuable, because in numismatics, every detail matters, from the sharpness of the strike to the luster of the surface to the presence of die cracks, cuds, or clashes that reveal the stresses of the minting process. And on some 1981 AD cents you can actually find dramatic die cracks that stretch across Lincoln's portrait or the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse, forming raised lines of metal that are unique to that specific die, making each coin a kind of fingerprint of the minting process. And collectors who specialize in die states eagerly pay premiums for coins showing unusual die wear or clashes where parts of the obverse and reverse designs imprint upon each other, leading to ghostly images that make the coin one of a kind. And then there is the question of condition. Because a coin in average circulated condition may only be worth a few cents to a few dollars, but a coin in gem mint state, with blazing original luster, no contact marks, and strong strike, can multiply its value thousands of times over. And when you add in the factor of errors or varieties, that value skyrockets into the millions, with the most legendary piece allegedly reaching the mind-boggling sum of $161 million, which, though hard to fathom, makes sense when you consider how the rarest collectibles in the world, whether stamps, art, or coins, have all commanded prices that seem unthinkable because collectors with deep pockets know they are acquiring something that can never be duplicated, and the 1981 AD cent fits that mold perfectly, being both rare and historically significant. And some reports suggest that specimens of this coin were preserved in rolls and bags straight from the mint, untouched by circulation, giving modern collectors a chance to discover hidden treasures. While others say that unique error pieces were found by sharp-eyed individuals who noticed that something about their penny didn't look quite right and held onto it until the world caught onto its rarity. And the stories behind these discoveries only add to the legend, because each tale of a coin found in change or tucked away in an old collection makes people dream that they too could stumble upon a fortune hidden in a humble penny. And that dream drives excitement, viewership, and bidding wars, creating a self-perpetuating cycle where values climb higher and higher. But beyond the financial aspect, there is also the fascination with how such mistakes could even occur in the highly controlled environment of the US Mint, and this leads to discussions about human error, mechanical failure, and the sheer volume of coins being struck in Denver in 1981, which makes it all the more surprising that spectacular errors slipped through. And yet this unpredictability is exactly what makes coin collecting so thrilling, because it shows that even in a world of machines and precision, chance and error can produce something extraordinary. And the 1981 AD cent is the ultimate proof of that, standing as a symbol of imperfection turned into perfection for collectors. And as we continue to break down the specific errors, we can note that some 1981 AD cents have been identified with small die breaks around the mint mark or the date, which create raised blobs or extra metal that look like extra digits or letters. And these so-called filled die errors or die chips have entire subgroups of collectors who specialize in finding them. And when combined with other anomalies like double dies or off-metal strikes, the cumulative rarity becomes overwhelming, making such a coin essentially unique, and uniqueness is the driving factor in numismatic value, because while millions of 1981 AD cents exist, only one or two may exhibit a certain extreme error, and when those coins hit the auction block, the competition to own them is fierce, driving the value to levels like $161 million, and to put this into perspective, one could compare it to famous coins such as the 1933 St. Gordon's Double Eagle or the 1794 Flowing Hair Dollar, both of which have reached tens of millions in auction sales, and the 1981 D-cent joins this elite club not because it is ancient or made of gold, but because its errors, mistakes, and historical timing have made it a true rarity, and so collectors recognize that its value is not just monetary but symbolic, a reminder that treasures can be found in the most unexpected places, and this is why the coin has become so legendary, because it represents the possibility that any ordinary person holding a penny could unknowingly be holding a piece of history worth more than entire fortunes. And so as we share this story with you, remember that the next time you see a 1981 AD penny, take a closer look, because who knows what secrets it might hold. And as this incredible tale shows, the humble 1 cent from Denver in 1981 could, under the right circumstances of errors, mistakes, varieties, and perfect condition, be worth an unimaginable $161 million, making it not just a coin but a true icon of numismatic wonder, and the fascination continues to grow as collectors and treasure hunters alike search tirelessly, dreaming of the day they too might uncover the next great rarity hidden in plain sight.